This season on the art and science of complex sales, we're thrilled to present Tales from the Front Lines, a season developed for the leaders shaping the future of complex sales. We're bringing you straight into the action with the C-suite, VPs of sales, sales development experts, and top-performing sales execs who are redefining success in the B2B world. These are the trailblazers that are tackling tough sales cycles, coaching sales champions, and aligning teams to deliver exceptional results. So join us as we unpack the hard lessons, the breakthrough moments, and the invaluable insights from the best in the business. It's more than a podcast, it's a guide to growing revenue with confidence. So let's get started. All right, everybody, I'm excited for a great episode, and who better to give us tips and tricks from the front lines than two tall guys talking sales. Sean O'Shaughnessy and Kevin Lawson are both successful fractional sales VPs and co-hosts of a popular sales podcast. Today, we dive into a pointed discussion around key challenges for teams in 2025, the top things good CEOs are doing to address these challenges, and critical things that amazing sales leaders are doing right now to drive success this year. So let's get started with Sean and Kevin. Kevin and Sean, it is so good to see you both. How are you doing today?
Doing great. How are you, Paul?
Fantastic. And Kevin, man, this is a podcast about sales, and so let's bring some energy. Tell me a little bit about what happened today.
Man, it's never a bad day when you get a yes. It's always good. And so my wish for you guys and everybody out there that's listening to us is you get the W today. Put one in the win column.
Let's check that box. Let's ring that bell. Let's make it happen. That's awesome.
Yes.
Well, congratulations, my man. That is awesome.
Well, so I actually have good news as well. I actually hired a salesperson. So there's a salesperson out there in listener land that was underemployed at his former employer and now has a better job as of about 20 minutes ago. So
let's go. Let's go.
I'm pumped for him because he's going to have a better career. He's going to provide for his family because he's going to work for a better company and have a better boss.
That is 2 in the W column right there. That is fantastic. And we are going to talk a lot about those things today. So Kevin and Sean, you're both fractional sales VPs. You're both in the sales acceleration world. And I have some great questions that I'm going to put to you today, because we want to know what's going on the front lines in your world. And so the very first question that I'm going to pose to you, and you guys, whoever has the quickest answer gets to go or raises their hand first. When you're looking out at the marketplace, right now we're at the beginning of 2025. We're getting started. There's some optimism. There's a little bit of hesitancy in the market. But what are the key challenges that you see out there for the year 2025? And ready, go. Fight for them. Oh, look at that hand. Kevin, you're up, man.
Oh, I was just passing the torch to Sean. I was trying to be, chivalrous and all that kind of stuff.
Hand up.
No, I was trying to say, Sean, man, you do the do. You got the W there. Well, it's a fun question, and I bet we all have a similar but unique answer. And I think most people this time of year, especially that are sitting on 0 or slightly above 0 in their quota, are probably looking at what am I doing in the top of my funnel to make sure I get through the rest of the year. I've heard it on about a half a dozen, one-to-one calls with CEOs this week or this month already. So that tops the list for me is, what are we doing with the top of the funnel, with a really close second of who is going to get us there. Sean?
I had exactly the same first question or first answer to the question, and that was, I need more revenue, I need more prospects, I need more leads. I just need more in order to be confident that I can hit my 2025 goal. And that actual question would probably be from the salespeople, probably for the sales managers that don't have a good plan. They're trying to just react and they're not planning ahead. And that would probably include the CEOs potentially, is like, how are my guys going to get there? And what do I need to do to get them there? So I think that that's a pretty common theme in 2025 as we think about, we are now 4 or 5 years away from COVID, and we can't make that excuse anymore. We have to just go out there and perform. And how are we going to do that?
Got to go make it happen. Well, let's transition very quickly then to that, because Sean, I'm going to put this one on you, which is okay. You have a CEO saying that's my top issue in 2025. So what are some of the things that good CEOs are doing at this point that is really helping them address those top issues? So January in the year, we're at the start. What is the good CEO doing to arm their sales team effectively?
So from the CEO perspective, and I'm going to bundle this into sales manager, if you don't mind me,
Sure.
broadening the scope a little bit. From the CEO sales manager perspective, there's a couple things that good ones are doing. And I know you challenged me for one, but I'm going to give you a couple. Just, I'm a nice guy, so I'm a giving person right now. So part of the problem that good CEOs are allowing to happen is they are identifying who is my ideal customer and really identifying who that is, right? What customers aren't ideal, almost as important, right? Where should we not spend a lot of our efforts going after prospects? And who should we go after from an ideal customer profile? That would be the first thing that I would tell a CEO, that if he can't tell me who his ideal customer is, what does that look like? That most profitable, easiest to sell value proposition that I deliver to them is just nailed it. If they can't tell me that's a problem. That second thing that they better have is that value proposition I just talked about, right? What is your value proposition for that ideal customer profile that just gets that guy that prospect to just open their eyes and, go, wow, you can do that for me? Wow. Right? So you got to get those two things really, really nailed. And then from the third perspective, this kind of leads into maybe what the salesperson can do. Are you giving your people the encouragement and the time and the support to network? Because as people that listen to our podcast would have heard last week, when we had a guest on our podcast, Two Tall Guys Talking Sales, cold calling is dead, relationships instead. So are you giving your people the ability, the tools, and the time to do the relationships, to do the networking, to reach out to people for reference, to have a reference customer, all those things? So I know I give you three. Sorry,
Three's okay. I'll take it. I am going to dive in with you for a second, but Kevin, before we bring you in, because I think the very first thing that you talked about was that ideal customer profile. And this has come up on a couple of the podcasts I've done recently, which I love. And you talked about that in relation directly to a CEO. And I love that. When I think there's magic that starts to happen is when that CEO can set a vision, understand it. And let's use EOS language. I mean, the visionary, right, can set the vision, can understand, but knows the perfect person that it works for, that vision helps people. And they can work on that with their CRO, VP of sales, all the way down through the organization. That's so important to get right. And I don't always see that. And Sean, do you have a reason why you wouldn't see that? I mean, that seems to be so strategic, and some CEOs just raise their hand and say, nah, that's not me. That's my VP of sales that does that.
Well, that's the issue, is they think that their VP of sales or their chief marketing officer or VP of marketing, whatever, they think they should solve that problem. They're not saying that those people shouldn't be in the room during that conversation, but I expand ideal customer profile to not just people that will say, wow, that's great. I love that you have that message for me, but I want to sell to them. And the CEO, he owns customer service. He owns the ability to deliver a product. He owns the fact that they love the product and they buy that product again. That's all in the CEO, that they can actually build a product, whatever that is. They're a manufacturer of widgets, they're a software company, they're a services provider, whatever. He can deliver a product that customer loves. So that's why he has to be in the room for that conversation, because the customer has to be incredibly profitable, right? So not only can I deliver a product that they love, but they're going to love it so much that they're willing to pay 110% of list price, right? So I can actually raise my prices. I don't have to discount my prices. I don't have to discount anything. I can actually raise my price. I have some price elasticity that I can deliver, and I can actually have a really, really profitable relationship with that. And you can't have a profitable relationship with a customer that doesn't love your product, right? If they think that, yeah, you're one of 16 different products I can sell, 16 different companies I can buy from that do exactly the same thing, guess what? That's not your ideal customer profile. Your ideal customer profile says, I buy from Paul, and I only buy from Paul because Paul knows my problems and Paul understands me.
Well, I do, and I do understand you, Sean. It's very nice of you to say that about me.
Convincingly.
It's wonderful for everybody out there that heard that. Whatever I'm selling, absolutely, Sean nailed it. Hey, Kevin, I'm going to pose the same question to you. Either build on what Sean just said, or let's take it back to the top. Like, what are the things right now that this good CEO is doing to address challenges in 2025?
Sure. So everything Sean said, comma, plus I like to focus. So I think it's really important for CEOs to also know where they're coming from and going to. So if let's just pretend that Sean has been and working with them and they've covered that. So I'm going to come in behind them and I'm going to say, hey, let's also make sure we're evaluating your sales operations, right? The strategic CEO is thinking about connecting the work being done and the work told to be done with the strategy. We're connecting the balcony with the dance floor. It's the person overseeing and the person doing the action. So I'm really having them focus on data. So I'm in agreement with Sean, but for your listeners out there, I don't want to go, hey, ditto, man, that sounds good. Because it's also additional thought can be applied. Because if somebody's out there listening and saying, hey, I need a good talent management system on top of a CRM, I probably know a guy too. So kind of the all in, the roll in there is that most businesses have enough data already. And there's a lot of CEOs that when I say that, they pause and they go, tell me more. Not, no, we don't, or yes, we do. It's, tell me more. And when we start to unpack the conversation around what data do you have transactionally from current, past customers, current pipelines, lost deals, you can glean a lot. There's a neat repository of data that I've built over the last couple of years of just won deals. When I won the deal, it was not just yeses and nos and dollars and zeros and ones. It was, what was the avatar, the persona of the person that I sold to? What was the business? What was the line of business? What was their market niche? How many meetings did it take me to win it? And by capturing that, again, I already have the data. And guess what? I've got it from my losses too. So how many tasks did I execute against a deal that went really long and no decision, or really short and got a decision? When we know the details, it's kind of like knowing in a product line, if you're a manufacturer and you know that, hey, I've got this many forecasted out sales and I didn't hit my number last year, or I did, I can start to forecast units and flow and time and distribution and labor costs. All those things I know about my business, it's as important to know those things as it is to know about your deals. If accountants have gap systems, gap accounting systems, why shouldn't a sales team also have similar standardized systems for success that return reliable results?
I'm gonna build on that if you don't mind, because what Kevin said was how many deals did it take to close, and this deal took forever to close, and this deal was really fast, right? So, and Kevin, I'm sure you're going to agree with this when I say it. Your ideal customer profile, that person, that company that you really love to sell to, that just gets you, and there's a strong affinity in buying your product. They don't take 45 sales calls to get the deal done. Right? They don't slip quarter after quarter after quarter and then finally buy. The ideal customer profile, the company that you sell to, or the person you sell to that is just like, wow, it just happened. You want more of those customers. And because they don't take forever to sell to, your salespeople don't get frustrated with them. You don't have to worry about them being really hard in the negotiation process. They're going to have to have a fair price and all the rest, but you don't have to be really, really negotiating and 16 pages of contracts and 14 lawyers involved and blah, 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 because they just get it and they want it and they say, let's just make this thing happen. This is perfect. It solves all my problems. So once again, Kevin's right. And this is a way to find out, are you actually calling on your ideal customer profile? No, I'm not, because it took me 43 sales calls to get the deal done. And if it took you that many sales calls, then either you better be selling a really, really, really big product, like you only need one a year kind of deals, or you're calling on the wrong company.
Yeah.
So let me ask, and Kevin, Sean, that's a great point. And Kevin, I'm going to ask you this question, because you brought up that idea of data, which is, and you made a really interesting statement there, which is you generally have the data you need, right? So tell me a little bit more about that, because what are the core, like for that CEO that is searching, and I know you deal with a lot of different industries, but give me an example, if you would, of the data you need. Like what are those things the core things that you want a CEO to be looking at in terms of their sales team and their revenue projections for 2025 that can really make a difference?
So let's talk about first making data-driven decisions, right? So if we're thinking about staffing, let's just call it inside sales. You probably know, based on your telephone system or your inbound system, how many calls are coming in. You probably know what time of day they're coming in, the average duration of those calls. And if you're advanced, you're probably recording those calls and have an AI tool that's mining them. Maybe not, maybe so. But either way, you know the data. I did a study like that in the early 2000s about a distributor that I worked with. And the net out there was we realized that over half of our calls were from employees, right? So what kind of strategic decision could a CEO make with that? Well, let's get the information shared amongst our team. If we have data about the average life cycle of a customer, how long does it take for them to mature as a customer? So one metric is how many deals did you close? That's an easy one. That's zeros and ones. I closed one this week, or zero this week, or one this week. But how long does it take for that customer to go from here's my first order to here's an order every day, or here's a sustaining order weekly, biweekly, or monthly? Once we know that data, it's from the same data set, but you have to know from an analyst's point of view where to go look. What stone do I turn over to return the best value for my time? I was working with a B2C company that sold a subscription style product, and we were looking for pauses in the subscriptions, and we were looking at attrition. And we started looking at attrition by zip code, attrition by annual household income, attrition by, we did hey, how can we group people and classify people in a way that was meaningful so that, back to Sean's point, we could develop the avatar that was less likely to pause, less likely to stop. And we also gave them the demographic and in some cases, psychographic markers to say, hey, this is what a good prospect looks like. Let's go find and market to those. So saying that out loud, Sean and I are doing if we were in the same room, we'd be high-fiving right now. We've got sales plus marketing plus product market fit plus finance and forecasting plus CEO plus board plus bank. Now everybody's using the data you already have to make informed and aligned decisions. That's what I mean by taking the data you have and putting it to work.
So let me ask this. Let me ask this question: is there's core data that I think is always going to remain the same, right? And maybe always is a big word, but for a CEO dashboard, and I've had this discussion with multiple organizations and multiple experts, the CEO dashboard that they use to manage if I'm giving practical advice, they use to manage and run the business, it's not the same this year as it was the last year. I think for a good CEO, that's never the case. There's always going to be shifts and changes based on what your business is doing. And I think one of the things that really starts to confuse sales teams and CEOs and that is when those metrics aren't effectively communicated. When those metrics shift from the CEO's perspective and the change in the strategy, those metrics aren't effectively communicated down to the people that really need to know it and can make decisions based on it. Do you guys see that in market at all?
I'm just going to say, yeah, absolutely. So I'm a firm believer in the Pareto chart, right? So Pareto chart means that, you always have a number one problem. So if I'm a CEO, I'm trying to knock down those problems and put systems in place that those problems don't occur. So invariably, though, if I solve a problem and it's my top problem that I have to solve this year, Well, next year, I don't have to solve that problem. So I don't need to look at that metric anymore because I have a new number one problem. I always have a biggest problem to solve to make my company better. That problem may get worse over time. And so maybe it gravitates to number one, or maybe I knocked out the old number one and now I just have a new number one, but I can always be better. So I have to focus on those things that are going to affect my business this year, this time. And then there's the geopolitics of the world that just happened, like the price of gas goes up, not because of anything you did, just the price of gas goes up. So now I have to be more efficient at how I ship. The price of whatever goes up. We have fires in California. We have whatever the case may be. There's always a problem that the CEO should try to avert and get around and at least diminish the importance of the organization. So yeah, they have to be looking at new data all the time and communicating that vision. If go back to that EOS term, go back to communicate that vision of this is what we have to do to be successful. And everybody needs to be, walking in the same parade and not a different parade.
All right. So I'm going to do a little summary. We're going to take our journeys. Let's see if I can take it well. At the top, we talked about the critical nature, and there's a lot of that need to fill the pipeline in 2025. But the biggest part of that is really defining what you want that pipeline to look like, that ICP, the people that you want in there. And I love that. I love that point that you made relative to relationships, Sean. That is just an absolute brilliant one, because you're seeing it more and more. And I actually love the fact that relationships are coming back to sales. I mean, they're not everything that sales is, but they're coming back. And then then the CEO needs to be looking at that, needs to arm their teams with what they have, and they need to be setting a vision, not just in this big ethereal, what we're going to do as an organization, but what are the key things, the key KPIs and the metrics and data that we need to have to run the business, and translate that down to a sales team. Now, what is a sales leader? You're both sitting in sales leader spots for multiple organizations. What is a sales leader focused on right now for 2025 that is making the most impact and setting up their year, kicking it off well, and making things happen?
I like that question, but it's probably unpopular what I'm about to say, because probably most people are doing some hand wringing right now. Because remember, Jan 1 means back to zero, right? Just the assumptive of, hey, when you turn that calendar year, most people's calendars go back to zero, quota fulfilled. So with that in mind, they're probably thinking about how am I going to get the next sale, not start off in the hole, that kind of stuff. But I would challenge every sales leader right now, before you get to end of Q1, take some time and do an evaluation of your team. Not micromanaged kind of stuff, not production, not versus last year. Take a skills assessment. There is so much opportunity on your team if you, as a sales leader, can lean in and help somebody on their career journey, because sales is not a one-year job. Sales is a career. And if you want to be good at it, you got to work at it. And just like every championship team, the day after you win the Super Bowl, you got to go back and hit the weight room and the conditioning and back to dietary and look at this coming year and look at what's going to change. So in the same kind of tone, if you're a sales leader and you haven't gone and done a skills assessment on your team, that's an easy read, free. That's a free use of your time on your team to go, let's look and evaluate. If I want them to be on a scale of 1 to 10, between a 7 and a 9, and they're at a 4, how do I get them to a 6 by Q1, 6 by Q2? Those incremental skills gap, when we fill those, we make better people, better practitioners. And when we're improving skills, we're probably making better executioners of quota. So it's probably not popular to think about investing in training when we got a zero quota, but it's probably a good activity if you want to end the top of the year on top of the heap and not the bottom.
Yeah, I think that too many sales managers spend way too much time worrying about the pipeline. And I'm not saying you shouldn't look at the pipeline. You shouldn't figure out which deals are going to close first and what's your biggest deals and all that stuff. You should do that. Absolutely. But if you're not on a regular basis, and I'm going to say weekly, if you're not trying to improve the knowledge, improve the skill of your salespeople and giving them tips and tricks on how to get better, giving them books to read, conversations to have about a book, blog sites to read. There's some really good podcasts like this one and Two Tall Guys Talking Sales that you can have a meeting just every week on, so what did Kevin and Sean talk about on Two Tall Guys Talking Sales last time, right? And let's talk about that. Let's dig into that. The same thing with Paul's show here. There's a bunch of other types of venues that you could be listening to and reading and talking about and trying to get your salespeople to be just a little bit better, right? If you could turn all of your C-level salespeople, because I'm going to assume that every good sales manager stack ranks their team. If you can get your C's to be a C plus, maybe a B, you don't have to get them all the way to an A, not your C's. You don't have to get them all the way to A in one step. And get your B's, the thing about being a B plus, think about maybe being an A this year, and getting your A's to really be super A's, right? To really be, if you back in high school when you could get above a 4.0 because you could take those advanced courses and get extra credit and all that stuff. Get those A salespeople to be the really great students, the ones that are standing on the lectern and giving the talk at the end of the year for graduation, the valedictorian and salutatorian types of people. You just need more of, everybody just take a little bit more, right? Just do a little bit better. If everybody can increase their output 10%, what does that do to your year, right? Just increase your capability by 10% per rep. You don't have to get them all to 100. You don't have to get them all to be great. Just a little bit better. So, and that's all about skills. So teach them, make them better.
Well, what I love about both your answers there is, it frankly ties into some of the work that we're doing. That's really exciting. But also I love the idea, and I know it works, of coaching. It just works. It's how great championship teams are built. It's how great sales teams are built, sports teams, whatever you want to call it. But that means one of the things that I've found, at least over my career, is that, and what both of you just pointed out, is that I need to put, as a sales leader, very specific, intentional time, not thinking about the deals that somebody is running, but thinking about the person and how to drive their effectiveness and how they can get better at life in general, plus get better at their job. Are you seeing a rise out there in terms of people realizing how impactful coaching is and the need for it in market? Or are you seeing people just going back to the same old, hey, let's just pound the pipeline, get more numbers, make more phone calls. That's all you got to do.
Unfortunately, I see a lot of people worrying about just the bottom line, just how much can I wring out of the rag? How hard can I push? How can we make another 10 calls a week or whatever? I see a lot of people doing that. And I'm not saying don't worry about the productivity of your salespeople, right? I mean, that's absolutely not what I'm saying. I think that there is not enough focus on coaching. And when it comes down to the last week of the quarter, yeah, worry about the deals that have to get in the door. Don't worry about coaching on that last week, right? But if you're in the first week of the quarter, you definitely should be worried about coaching, almost more than the deals. Somewhere halfway between in the quarter or the month or the year, whatever you kind of gauge yourself on, maybe you're starting to pay a little bit more attention to the deals. But if you can get everybody to just hit a little bit better. So, if you're a baseball general manager in the professional leagues and you can get one more hit per season out of every one of your players, you might win a couple more games. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, right? It doesn't take, when we record this is early January, we're in the height of really good football season, right? So football, Scott, is happening like all the time and whatever. Like that, lean forward for one more yard, one more yard per play. That's the difference between, making it on a regular basis and scoring on a regular basis and possessing the ball longer. And that's just a matter of just teaching the guy to lean forward, hold on to the ball with both hands and lean forward, right? Stretch a little bit to get that extra yard. That's kind of what we need to do.
I love it. So Kevin, tell me a little bit about how you are diving in and helping people with that. How do you recommend that people structure? Like you have a sales manager, you have a sales leader. How do you say, all right, it's time to, we talked about a skills assessment, but how do you help them structure an actual focused coaching plan? Like that seems like something that's really, really important.
Yeah. Well, first you have to do the assessment to know where they need the help. And I think if any of your listeners go to either of Sean or my website, lighthousesalesadvisors.com, newsales.expert, we've got free resources out there that lend itself to these kinds of, here's a template for you. So go there, grab that. We don't ask for email addresses. We just ask that you use it to be a better leader of people. But when you're doing that and structuring a plan, think about your sales process. Right? Every one of your sellers probably has a different area of expertise. Some are great closers. I can talk to a wall and invent a relationship. Others can be really technical sales. Some are closers only. You've got people who are skilled at different parts of the sales cycle. So like Sean was talking about in the batting practice and the leaning forward 1 more yard, one more qualification from lead to prospect or prospect to scope, it not only gets you a better prospect, it may actually save you time, which is a net lift to the entire organization. If you have better product fit and you're structuring coaching around, hey, are we assessing product fit, probability, ICP fit? Are we doing that assessment before we say, ooh, somebody's talking back to me? I've got a new lead, right? Which is a common behavior. So if we can coach out some of the natural bad tendencies and coach in a couple more attentive questions to the problem you're trying to solve, you get better results. Like if you forget to put salt in some of the meals you cook, the meals you cook at home taste terrible, but a little pinch of salt makes a huge difference to the final product. So my encouragement is add a little salt in there. For the other parts of the coaching, thinking about the whole experience you want the customer to have, as opposed to the sales process you just want to follow. Right? Some of this is I, me, I, we. But we also want to push that out and say, hey, we did all this work on a value proposition and a persona. Shouldn't we think about how they're experiencing us? Customer success starts with expectation management.
That's fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic. And I am never going to forget, just add a little dash of salt. I have 4 metrics here. And I want you to guess, tell me how much you could increase revenue by if you simply increase each of these 4 metrics by 7%. Sales projects created, your win rate, average deal size, and sales cycle, which would be a decrease in 7%. What do you think the number is if just 7% shift in each of those?
7% on each of those? That would probably be, it's at least 28%, right? Because
you are doubling, right? 200%. Yeah. Doubling your revenue.
Yeah, you're doubling revenue. There's no question about it. Yeah.
So I love that. I love that focus on the little things, and I love how coaching and the work you're doing just makes a huge, huge difference. Hey, Sean, why don't you close us out real quick? Tell us a great joke. No, I'm kidding. Unless you really have one, but. What is one thing that you really want people to take? And I'll ask both of you this. What is one thing you really want people to take with them from 2025? You can give them a one-line or something quick. What should they be doing to make 2025 a successful year?
What can you do for your prospect to make them successful?
All right.
Focus on that.
I love it. Kevin, you got one to add too?
If you don't have a repeatable sales process, you don't have a repeatable sales process. Train everybody the same way. It's great stuff.
I love it. Well, thank you both. And this is 2 tall guys talking sales plus a short to medium size height guy. But where do they find your podcast and find you all online?
Yeah, we are everywhere. Anywhere you get podcasts, if you search for 2 tall guys talking sales, you're going to find Kevin and I's picture, and you're going to be able to download our podcast. Now, you got to be careful. If you just do 2 tall guys, there's too many of those out there. You're going to get all kinds of stuff from how to wear blue jeans to how to fix a car.
You get Wilt and Shaq talking basketball.
Yeah. So it's 2 tall guys talking sales, and we are literally on every platform. We're distributed everywhere. You can get us. We drop our our podcast at 4:30 on Tuesdays, once a week. It's 15 minutes plus or minus a minute, and it's one topic. We talked about a bunch of things. We talk about one topic. We beat the H out of it, and we make it happen. So.
Well, I really appreciate that work and that effort to raising everybody up around you. I highly recommend it at all. It's a great podcast. Please check it out. And with that, we'll close it out for today. Thank you so much, Sean. Thank you so much, Kevin. It's been awesome having you on The Art and Science of Complex Sales. Everybody, please make sure you subscribe, you like, you share this on all the platforms, and get out there, shine bright, sell some more, and have an amazing, amazing day. We'll see you. Hey, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Art and Science of Complex Sales. I hope today's conversation provided you with valuable insights and practical ideas to help you and your team elevate the profession and succeed in today's complex world. This podcast is brought to you by Membrane.com. Membrane is a B2B growth platform for CEOs, sales leaders, and sales executives who are committed to sustainable growth and change. If you enjoyed this episode, do us a favor, like, subscribe, share it with your network. Your support really helps us bring more valuable insights from the best in the business straight to you. Also, check us out at Membrane.com. We're more than a technology. Membrane equips your teams with the expert coaches and trainers, amazing sales methodologies, process, people, and tools to continually improve and coach results. More than a CRM. It's a network, and it's designed to help your team execute with confidence, smash goals, and overall up your sales game. So we'll see you next time for another episode of The Art and Science of Complex Sales. And until then, as always, keep shining bright.